date fossils? Chips of bone or teeth? Well, you cannot date them radiometrically because they're porous material. So the way you date fossils is, here's what they do. As you excavate down through the geological strata, okay, and they talk about this out there, you start digging down through the earth, okay? When you find a chip of bone or a tooth, the way you date that chip of bone or tooth is you date it based upon the geological strata it is found in. Okay? People say, well, how do you date the geological strata? Well, it's very simple, as they tell you out there. You date the geological strata based upon the age of the fossil. Now, the first time I heard this, I wasn't sure I was hearing right. You date the fossil by the geological strata, you date the geological strata by the fossil. People will say to me, come on, Carlson, get serious. I'll get serious with you. Go to your library and look up the World Book Encyclopedia. We recently bought, a couple years ago, the 1988 edition of the World Book Encyclopedia. Okay? It's found in every library, every school across North America. In volume 7, page 422, under fossils, we read this. Scientists determine when fossils were formed by finding out the age of the rocks in which they lie. Okay? You find the age of the fossil based upon the age of the rocks in which they lie. Now you turn in the World Book Encyclopedia to volume 15, page 102, under paleontology. Okay? Down here. Paleontology is important in the study of geology. The age of rocks may be determined by the fossils in them. Folks, this is a World Book Encyclopedia used in every school and university in our country. You date the fossils by the rocks, you date the rocks by the fossils. I wrote down some of the signs I saw out at the Terrell Museum today. They said, quote, fossils are important tools in dating. This is a direct quote. Fossils are important tools in dating. Fossils provide an index to the relative age of the rocks. If you go out there, you will be introduced to the geological column. Okay? Half of the museum out here in Alberta is based upon this geological column. In fact, I bought in their bookstore today this chart of the geological column. Now, if you've ever taken a course in geology or earth science, you have all studied the geological column. This is usually on the cover of the book or the first inside page. It is the supposed 12 ages of the earth, or 13 if you include Precambrian, Cambrian, Diluvian, Silurian, upwards, 12 ages of the earth beginning back 4.5 billion years, coming up to modern day. Now, one thing you'll always notice, and I bought this at your museum here in Alberta, you will always notice, as you see out in the museum and on the screen here, that next to the supposed 12 ages of the earth, 4.5 billion years, they always put the supposed evolution of life. You ever notice that? Beginning down with single-celled trilobites, brachiopods, upwards through fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, upwards to Homo sapien. What they don't tell you, folks, is this. The geological column, which is the basis of your museum and all of paleontology, and in fact the basis of all of geology today, has never been found anywhere in the world. Do you know that? We have never found the geological column anywhere in the world. The geological column was invented by a man named Charles Lyell. Charles Lyell, look him up in the encyclopedia, L-Y-E-L-L. Lyell is known as the father of modern-day geology. He wrote the 3 volumes of geology still used in most universities today. Lyell was a contemporary of Charles Darwin. In fact, he greatly influenced Charles Darwin. Lyell, in the mid-19th century, was not a scientist, he was a lawyer. He was also an atheist. And Charles Lyell, you can read about him in your encyclopedias or history books, he believed that the way to destroy belief in God was to create a system called uniformitarianism. And if you go out to your museum, they have a whole display on uniformitarianism. That the earth has evolved slowly and gradually by natural processes over billions of years, and that evolution obviously has done the same thing, is what they say out there. Lyell believed that the way to destroy belief in God as the creator of the universe was to create a system based upon Darwin's theory of evolution. That is why, when you look at the geological column of 12 ages, next to it you always see the supposed evolution of life. These are called index fossils if you go out to your museum. So that when they excavate down through the geological strata, when they find a fossil here, they know that this fossil is this age because it fits here on the geological column. And they know this geological strata is that age because this fossil was found in it. The geological column, folks, is based solely and purely upon the philosophical assumption that if evolution is true, you would require this many billions of years for things to have evolved. And then you date evolution based upon the theory of evolution. It's circular reasoning. You can date anything any age you want. As the World Book Encyclopedia says, you date the fossils by the rocks and the rocks by the fossils. Now, they don't tell you this in school. It is the great con, the great lie of your museum. This geological column has never been found anywhere in the world. It exists only in the minds of evolutionists, invented by Charles Lyell. Charles Lyell, if you read his history, was also the one who invented the idea of ice age and glaciation, because he had to explain somehow the geological features that had been created by the universal flood at Noah, and since he could not accept the catastrophic flood of Noah, he had to come up with some idea to explain why you find all of these features created by water. And he invented the idea of glaciation ice age over billions of years, back in the 1850s. People say to me, well, Ron, how old then is the earth? How old is the earth? Let me share something with you tonight that's going to shock some of you, but that's all right. There is no scientific evidence anywhere in the world. Let me repeat that. There is no scientific evidence anywhere in the world that the earth is any older than 6,000 years. And the only reason why people date it older than 6,000 years is not because of the scientific evidence, but solely and purely because the theory of evolution necessitates it, not because of the evidence. The problem, folks, is you could give them 4.5 trillion years and it would not be enough time for evolution because of the second law of thermodynamics. The greater the time span, the greater the chaos. People say, what do you mean, Carlson, 6,000 years? It's very interesting. When my son and I were in Australia 5 months ago, we went diving on the Great Barrier Reef. Up in northeast Australia is the closest where the Great Barrier Reef comes. It extends about 12 to 1,500 miles along the coast of Australia and comes about 25 miles close to shore up by Port Douglas. The northeast corner of Australia, one of the thickest rainforests in the world, tropical jungles, and you take a boat 25 miles on the ocean and you come to the Great Barrier Reef. Phenomenal. About 360 varieties of coral, 1,500 varieties of fish, and we dive for a whole day on it. It was phenomenal. And as we were taking the boat out, we were on one of these tour boats, and they had 2 marine biologists from the University of Australia who were going to give a slideshow on the history of the Great Barrier Reef. I thought, boy, this is going to be interesting. So the marine biologist began, and he says, the Great Barrier Reef is the